The job posting was absurd, wanted, fake fiancé for high society events. Must tolerate public affection and my mother's interrogations. I should have ignored it. But after losing my gallery job, I was desperate enough to meet Billionaire CEO Daniel Sterling at a five-star hotel. He laid out the terms over champagne, $50,000 for 3 months. No sex, strictly professional. Absolute secrecy, I signed. I shouldn't have. The first red flag, Nathaniel Hollow. Daniel's childhood best friend and the only person who saw through our act immediately. You don't look at him like you're in love, Nate murmured at the engagement party, his fingers brushing mine as he handed me a martini. You look at him like he's a spreadsheet. I choked on my drink. Daniel didn't notice. Nate never stopped watching. It happened after the Hamptons gala. Daniel left early for a work call. Nate stayed. One drink turned into 3. His confession turned into my back pressed against the penthouse elevator wall, his mouth claiming mine with a hunger that shattered the contract's no sex clause before we even reached the bedroom. Daniel found Nate's tie under my pillow. Instead of anger, a smirk. I knew you'd fall for him, he said, tossing me a check for double the amount. Now here's the real deal. Stay engaged to me publicly for 6 more months, or tell Nate the truth. The truth? This was never about his mother. It was about breaking Nate's heart, the same way Nate once broke Daniel's sister's. Now Nate sends me poems with his coffee orders. Daniel gifts me jewelry I never wear, and I stare at the unsigned check on my nightstand, wondering if love is worth becoming the villain in someone else's revenge story. The penthouse smelled like Nate's cologne and regret as I crumpled Daniel's check in my fist. He'd left the bedroom door ajar a test. Through the crack, I watched Nate pace by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his dress shirt clinging to his shoulders from the summer humidity. You're quiet tonight, he murmured, catching my reflection in the glass. My bare toes curled into the rug. The lie tasted like cheap champagne when I forced it out. Just tired. Nate's phone buzzed. A photo from Daniel flashed on the screen, his sister's tear-streaked face the night Nate supposedly broke her heart. The real story came out in ragged confessions between kisses against the minibar. She'd overdosed after he rejected her. Not his fault. Never his fault. Daniel had spent 5 years crafting this revenge, and I was the perfect pawn, an unemployed artist with a weakness for sad green eyes and sadder bank accounts. The elevator dinged. Daniel strode in holding 2 tickets to Santorini and a smile sharper than his Rolex. Pack your bags, darling. We leave at dawn. Nate's knuckles whitened around his glass. I reached for the tickets and dropped them into his whiskey. Wrong move, Daniel sighed, pulling a velvet box from his pocket. Inside sat a diamond the size of my guilt. Last chance. The ring or the truth? Nate stood so fast his chair toppled. The truth spilled out with the ice cubes clattering across marble. He never loved you. He hired me to ruin you. Daniel's laugh slithered through the room. Oh, sweetheart. I know. He tossed a second velvet box to Nate. Identical ring. Father's will states I inherit double if both siblings marry suitable candidates by year's end. Guess who's been vetting your fiancé for me? The air left my lungs. Nate's hands trembled as he flipped open the box, his sister's engagement ring inside. The pieces clicked together. Daniel's sister hadn't overdosed. She'd discovered their father's twisted claws. The champagne bottle shattered against the wall. You psychotic bastard, Nate breathed. Daniel merely adjusted his cuffs. Tick-tock, brother, the trust releases at midnight. Outside, storm clouds swallowed the skyline. Somewhere in the city, a clock tower struck 11. And in the space between heartbeats, I made my choice reaching not for the rings, but for the fire poker beside the hearth. The first swing took out the security cameras. The second, let's just say Daniel's perfect teeth looked better scattered across his Persian rug. Nate's shocked laughter rang sweeter than any diamond as I grabbed his hand. "Run with me," I panted. He kissed me hard enough to bruise. We made it 14 blocks before the Sterling family guards opened fire. But that's a story for another day. Gunshots echoed through the downtown alleys as Nate dragged me behind a dumpster, his breath hot against my neck. "You realize we're now fugitives over a trust fund we're not even getting?" he hissed, peering over the metal edge. I wiped Daniel's blood from my cheek with the hem of my stolen cocktail dress. "Worth it," I gasped, watching black SUVs screech around the corner. Nate's fingers dug into my waist as he yanked me into a run again, our bare feet slapping against rain-slick pavement. The Sterling family guards were closing in when a motorcycle roared up beside us. A leather-clad woman with fiery red hair tossed us 2 helmets. "Clara sends her regards," she shouted over the engine. We barely had time to grip her waist before she peeled into oncoming traffic. The safe house stank of cigarettes and gun oil, Clara lounging on a threadbare couch with a smirk. "Took you long enough," she drawled, tossing Nate a burner phone. The screen showed Daniel being loaded into an ambulance, very much alive, already barking orders. Clara lit a cigarette. "He'll freeze every account, call in every favor. You've got 12 hours before this city becomes a tomb." Nate scrolled through the phone, his face hardening at a photo of his sister's grave. "There's another way," he said slowly. "The Zurich account." Clara exhaled smoke in a tight laugh. "The one old man Sterling hid from the IRS? You'd need his wedding ring," I finished, remembering the heavy signet Daniel never removed. "The one currently digging into my thigh from my dress pocket." Clara's eyebrows shot up. Nate's hands framed my face. "We could disappear tonight," he whispered. "But we'd always be running." Outside, sirens wailed closer. I pressed the bloodstained ring into his palm. "Then let's end this." The plan was insanity. Crash Daniel's press conference at Sterling Tower, expose the trust fund fraud live on air, and pray Clara's hacker friend could drain Zurich before security tackled us. But as Nate's lips met mine in the elevator ride up, his hands sliding under my stolen guard uniform, I realized the truth. We weren't escaping a revenge plot anymore. We were writing our own. The doors opened on chaos. Daniel's bandaged face twisted in rage as we stormed the podium. Cameras flashed. The hacker's signal beeped. And when security finally dragged us apart, Nate shouted 3 words that trended worldwide by morning. "Check his collar." The live feed zoomed in on Daniel's undone button, revealing an identical signet ring. The one that had been lost with his father's body. The one that proved the will was forged. The last thing I saw before the police cuffs clicked was Clara winking from the press corps, a USB glinting in her hand. It's been 6 months since the Sterling scandal. Daniel's serving 7 years for fraud. Nate's using his half of the recovered funds to start an addiction treatment center named after his sister. And me? I'm writing this from a Bali beachfront villa, Clara's latest text blinking on my phone. The Swiss miss you. P.S. Where something nice new job starts Monday. The attached photo shows a vault, a blank contract, and one very familiar emerald nightgown. Some games, it seems, are too tempting to quit. The sun hung low over the Bali coastline as I traced the rim of my cocktail glass, watching Nate's latest email load. His treatment center's grand opening photos glowed on the screen, all soft smiles and hopeful eyes, a far cry from the man who'd once shattered champagne flutes in rage. My finger hovered over the reply button when the villa's security system blared to life. Clara stood at the gates, her scarlet nails tapping against a manila envelope. "Miss me?" She purred, dropping it onto the tea table. Inside lay a single key card and a photograph of Daniel being released on parole. Turns out 7 months is the new 7 years when you own the warden. The ice in my drink cracked as I reached for the envelope's second item, a wedding invitation. My face stared back from the bride's position. The groom's name blacked out. Your next role, Clara whispered, painting a crimson lipstick smear across the venue address. Unless you'd rather explain to Interpol why your fingerprints are on the Zurich transfer records. The ocean breeze carried the scent of frangipani and extortion as my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Daniel's voice slithered through. Welcome back to the game, darling. Did you really think I'd let you keep my sister's ring? Somewhere beyond the horizon, a storm gathered. Somewhere closer, Nate's treatment center acceptance letter fluttered into the pool. And in the space between betrayal and survival, I made my choice pocketing the keycard as Clara's helicopter blades began to whirl. The helicopter blades whipped my hair into a frenzy as we soared over the Singapore Strait, Clara's manicured hand pressing a dossier into my lap. Meet your fiancé, she said, flipping open the file to reveal a photo of Marcus Lynn tech mogul, Daniel's former business rival, and the man whose name had been blacked out on the invitation. My stomach lurched. His company holds the patents Daniel needs to rebuild Sterling Corp, Clara shouted over the rotor noise. And you're the only woman he's ever publicly admired. The private jet waiting at Changi Airport smelled like sandalwood and secrets. Marcus stood by the wet bar, his tailored suit doing nothing to hide the knife strapped to his calf. Ah, the infamous runaway, he murmured, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey neat, just like Nate used to drink it. His fingers lingered on mine as he passed the glass. Clara says you're persuasive. The truth unfolded in pieces over the flight. Daniel had promised Marcus military contracts if he married me, proof I'd betrayed me. Clara was playing both sides, as usual. And Nate, his treatment center, was a front for laundering the last of the sterling fortune. Marcus' lips brushed my ear as the plane descended into Monaco. The wedding's in 6 hours. Choose your side by sunset. The casino lights glittered like broken promises as we stepped onto the tarmac. Somewhere in the crowd, Daniel's new bodyguards lurked. Somewhere closer, Nate's burner phone buzzed in my clutch with a single word, "Don't." And in the gilded casino bathroom, I stared at my reflection, Clara's lipstick smeared like blood. Marcus' ring heavy on my finger, and realized the cruelest twist of all. I missed being the pawn. At least then, I knew the rules. The Monaco sunset bled crimson across the casino rooftops as I adjusted Marcus's diamond engagement ring, a cold, flawless stone that felt like shackles. My reflection in the Louis XIV mirror showed Clara's handiwork, lips stained the color of fresh bruises, hair coiled into a gilded cage of pins. The wedding dress, a razor-sharp Valentino gown with a slit that ended at my thigh. Concealed 3 stolen items, Marcus's switchblade, Nate's last burner phone, and the USB Clara had slipped me during her bridal toast. The door burst open without warning. Marcus leaned against the marble doorway, his tuxedo jacket hanging open to reveal the knife holster. Nervous? He asked, watching me through the mirror. His fingers trailed down the pearls at my nape, a mockery of tenderness. Don't be. Daniel's already celebrating his victory in the VIP lounge. He pressed a champagne flute into my hand. Drink. You'll need it for what comes next. The bubbles burned like betrayal on my tongue. What came next was worse. The ceremony took place on the casino's glass rooftop, 100 meters above the Mediterranean. Nate stood among the guests, disguised in waiter's livery, his jaw tight as Marcus slid the Lynn family jade bracelet onto my wrist, a symbol of ownership older than the sterling fortune. Daniel toasted us with venom in his smile, his pearl anklet blinking under his tailored pants. And Clara? She filmed everything, her scarlet nails tapping against her phone like a countdown. I waited until the priest pronounced us man and wife. Waited until Marcus's lips were a breath from mine. Then I smashed the champagne flute against the balcony and pressed the jagged stem to his carotid. Chaos erupted. Nate lunged for Daniel. Security tackled him. Marcus laughed against the glass at his throat, whispering, "I knew you'd choose him," before wrenching free. The USB flew from my bodice, skittering across the glass floor toward Clara, who scooped it up with a wink. That's when the screens flickered. Every monitor in Monaco casino floors, yacht decks, the massive display above the harbor lit up with security footage. Daniel bribing the warden, Marcus plotting with cartel leaders, and Clara ... Clara accepting payment from all of them. The crowd's gasps nearly drowned out Nate's roar as he broke free, his fist connecting with Daniel's face in a crack that echoed off the skyscrapers. Marcus yanked me backward, his knife flashing. Then the gunshot rang out. Clara lowered the smoking pistol, blowing a curl from her face. Enough. The USB in her other hand pulsed with a red light. The real prize was never the sterling fortune or Lintech. She kicked the jade bracelet toward me. It was the blockchain codes hidden in these heirlooms. And now? She grinned. I have both. The police sirens wailed in the distance. Nate's blood dripped onto the glass beside Daniel's unconscious form. Marcus's knife hovered at my ribs. And in that suspended second, I finally saw the board clearly. We'd all been playing Clara's game from the start. The sirens grew louder as Clara backed toward the rooftop's edge, the USB gripped tight in one hand, her pistol steady in the other. The wind whipped her crimson hair into a frenzy, making her look like some avenging goddess, if goddesses were balmain and sold out everyone they'd ever met. Marcus's knife still pressed into my ribs, but his grip faltered as he watched her. You planned this from the beginning, he snarled. Clara's laugh was bright and cruel. Oh, darling. I didn't plan anything. She tossed the USB into the air and caught it with a smirk, but she did. Then she nodded at me, ... The real game began. Nate wiped blood from his lip and hit a button on his phone. The casino's massive screens flickered again, this time showing Clara's encrypted messages, instructions to manipulate Daniel, orders to bait Marcus, and most damning of all, proof she'd been working for Interpol the whole time. You were the mark, Clara, I said, stepping free of Marcus's hold. They needed someone reckless enough to chase the blockchain codes. Someone you would trust? Clara's smile froze. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Nate limped forward, pulling a badge from beneath his waiter's jacket. Interpol cybercrimes. The sterling fortune? The Lynn patents? All just bait. He gestured to the still-playing footage, Clara accepting bribes, deleting evidence, arranging accidents for anyone who got too close. The real target was your network. Marcus lunged not at me, not at Nate, but at Daniel, who was gradually trying to crawl away. You knew, he spat, hauling him up by his ruined tuxedo lapels. Daniel's laugh was ragged. I knew she'd betray us. I didn't know you'd be stupid enough to fall for it. The police stormed the rooftop. Clara fought, of course she did, but the cuffs clicked tight around her wrists all the same. As they dragged her away, she locked eyes with me, that old smirk playing at her lips. You'll miss this, she called. Maybe she was right 3 months later. The Monaco trial made headlines worldwide. Clara got 20 years. Daniel bargained his way down to house arrest. Marcus vanished. Some said Dubai, others said a private island. And Nate? He met me at a cafe in Lisbon, his hands free of blood for the first time in years. Interpol offered me a job, he said, sliding a dossier across the table. Inside, a photo of a new marked a Russian oligarch with a fondness for emeralds and blackmail. I sip my coffee. You're not really asking me to join you? Nate's smile was the same as that first night in the penthouse, dangerous and delicious. I'm not asking at all. The dossier burned between us. Some games never end. They just change players.